Hi, hello, Sam Calagione here. Psyched to be here on Tulsa World with Tom. And today I'm talking about Dogfish Head's perfect pairing beer. And so Dogfish has a long history at our brewery. When we opened as the smallest brewery in the country, we said the majority of beers we make will be brewed with culinary ingredients instead of just the traditional beer ingredients of water, yeast, hops, and barley. And away we went with beers like Chicory Stout made with chicory and coffee, and April Hop, the first distributed fruit-infused IPA, Immort Ale made with maple syrup and vanilla beans. And so still today, we make the best-selling sour beer in America, Sea Quench Ale made with black limes and sea salt. Our pumpkin ales, one of the most renowned in the country. We've been doing that since '95. So we're always innovating with an eye towards how can we bring something unexpected from the culinary world into the craft brewing world, with an eye towards, is it something unique and fun, but actually does it add something meaningful from a sensory perspective to the beer itself? And so I'm a New England boy at heart, even though our brewery opened in coastal Delaware. And I grew up on a farm that had grass cows on it, a couple beefers, maple syrup trees up in Western Mass. And right down the road, you could bicycle to the state line of Vermont. So we were always a big Cabot cheese family. And so we've always admired the Cabot brand. It's super cool. It's basically a co-op. So all the actual dairy farmers own the Cabot brand and direct the people how to market their cheese with a passion for quality and for community. So we had a lot in common with them there. And away we went. I basically thought, hey, you know, the fastest growing volumetric beer style in America is Hazy Ipas. What can we do in that space that hasn't been really done yet? And so a lot of hazy IPAs, they get that haze, that cast of cloudy haze from oats, but they often get sweetness from lactose sugar, essentially processed milk sugars that's added during the brewing process. And I thought, well, wait a second, we could do something way cool here, WHEY, and actually work with Cabot to side stream the way that is naturally part of the beer or the cheese production, and see if we could add it, dose it into the beer. So it would, what the whey does in this beer perfect pairing is it gives us a really beautiful, compelling body, but also this really subtle sweetness to the beer as well. So it's essentially an unfiltered pale ale, not as strong intentionally as a big IPA. It's an unfiltered pale ale, 5.5 ABV, that was literally designed at a molecular level to be the perfect partner for Cabot's seriously sharp cheese.
What kind of hops are you using?
Without betraying a lot of the specific varieties, we were definitely going for more tropical notes. So the hops are very much front and center. It is a hop forward beer for a pale ale, you know, even maybe in the context of a classic like, Sierra Pale. It's a classically hopped, high hop pale ale, but for example, contrasting from Sierra Nevada, who leans into Cascade hops, which throws almost pure citrus notes. We intentionally chose a sort of medley of different hop varieties that throw very tropical notes. So mostly you get pineapple and tangerine, even almost some banana notes. So tropical notes is kind of forward in this perfect pairing beer. Went up to Cabot's farms and hung out with all the different farmers and tried stuff from their caves and their aging facilities, and their scientists and R&D folks came down to Delaware and tried stuff from our vats. So it was a long and wonderful process, and we took the time not just to develop this really unique whey infused pale ale, but we've been doing special tours at our brewery for over a decade of pairing cheeses with beer, and we've used Cabot cheeses. So now, as you mentioned, in Oklahoma, it's just arriving now, our variety pack coast to coast that contains the perfect pairing beer. So it's called our Off-Center Party Pack. And it actually has 4 sort of our beers in it, which is, and each one of them's designed to be partnered with a different style of cheese. And there's a QR code on the pack that really goes deep lets people go deep on the cheese and beer pairing theme. But for example, 90 Minute is the perfect partner for habanero cheddar because it's more malty, bigger, has some sweetness, which can help create sort of a blanket for the spice of the habanero and calm your palate. 60 minutes paired with the Alpine cheddar cheese, which is even almost has like a horseradishy note to it. A really complex, beautiful cheese. And 60-minute throws a lot of sort of grapefruit and sort of orange rind character from the hops. And then last but not least in the off-center party pack is our Blue Hen Pilsner, which is a really subtle malty Pilsner on the sweeter side with some Saaz hops, which is paired with the pepper jack cheese and is sort of a perfect foil for the spice that you get in the pepper jack cheese. So we're really proud of just how deep we went on this pack to bring cheese into the discussion, and especially since it'll be available from now through the holiday season, so people can bring home a 12-pack variety pack, bring home a whole tray of Cabot cheeses, different ones, and it's kind of like you got an instant party that you can take, or for tailgating. It's an instant party between awesome paired food and beers. Dogfish, we always wanted to be really community oriented. It's cool to hear about that project, and I felt the love of the Oklahoma beer community. I did, events with the Hanson brothers, the Hop Fest that you and I hung out at for a couple of years, and we were proud to do a beer and music project with the Flaming Lips down the road in Oklahoma City, and hanging out with Wayne there. So we love us some Oklahoma, and for us, when we opened, we were the first brewery in Delaware. It's a relatively rural state with a few beach towns. But it is 2 hours from DC, Baltimore, Philly, 3.5 from Manhattan. So I thought, as a 23-year-old kid, it'd actually be cool to be the first brewery in the first state, the first to ratify, and then also to try and stand out by focusing on culinary ingredients in beer, which really was not being done in the early 90s. It was mostly just classic, European beer styles being brewed locally. There was not like the fruited sours going off, or the pastry stout. So we took a lot of shit, in the mid 90s, early 90s, for putting chicory and coffee into beer, and apricots and IPAs. But it's been cool to see the vibrancy and the breadth of creativity that's come forward in all of our years of commercial brewing. And we're actually, while we were 27 years brewing, we've been over 20 years distilling. You mentioned that, Tom. So we built our own little homemade distillery, 150-gallon distillery, over 20 years ago in one of our restaurants. Started making gins and rums and vodkas and making our own cocktails at our own properties. We actually got a James Beard nomination for our cocktail program. So like 5 or 6 years ago, we started putting our cocktails into crowlers. People dug that. And about 2 years ago, we started putting our canned cocktails into 12-ounce cans, and they're now one of the fastest growing canned cocktail brands in America. There are 2 foolproof shots in every can, real natural culinary ingredients like our beers. So that category is really exciting and complementary to the Dogfish beer world. We have a number of restaurants, as you mentioned, and we also have the first beer-themed hotel in America that we opened almost a decade ago, right there with a view of the harbor in the town of Lewis, Delaware, 17 rooms. So we invite Oklahoman beer lovers to come beat the heat in the fall here and take a road trip and stay at our Dogfish Inn hotel.
What can you experience there at the inn?
So, I mean, we boil down our beers to make soaps and shampoos for your room. Wow. Communal fire pit outside. We intentionally put growlers in everybody's room, but we intentionally don't put beer in their room. We give them a trail map, because Dogfish has helped to build a network of trails between the 3 towns that our breweries, our distilleries, and our hotel are located at. And above the fireplace in the hotel, it says, "Welcome to Lewis, Mother Nature, let's do this." And you get your road map, and you're encouraged to take your growlers, your backpack. We did a collaboration with a bike company called Priority Bikes, and co-design these bikes that you can use, and you can get to our different towns by kayak or paddleboard, but mostly by bicycle. So it's really an outdoorsy destination, waterfront hotel that has beer as a centerpiece for its design and programming. This package, the off-center party pack that has the perfect pairing beer, the collaboration with Cabot, with Away in it. That variety pack just started shipping 2 weeks ago, so it should be arriving in Oklahoma and coast to coast, at anywhere that has a great indie craft beer selection right now as we're doing this story. And we encourage people to not just buy the variety pack, but buy some cheeses to go on this pairing journey with us. If there's other cheeses that you love, knock yourself out. Our preferred partner is Cabot, but it works with other brands of cheese as well. So I'm sure people can find the four types of cheese wherever they have a good cheese selection. Hello, this is Sam Calagione, founder, brewer, Dogfish Head Brewery. And what the ales beer of the week is Dogfish Head's perfect pairing. Cheers.